Hi, welcome to Configueres. Thank you for taking the time to hear about Configueres, a tool that, as we think, can change the world of systems architecture and design just a little bit. My name is Kees Michielsen and I'm here to introduce Configueres to you, a tool that my son and I, Paul, have been developing. So what is Configueres all about? It's about the transformation of ideas and thoughts and concepts through a modeled design into configurations that can be manufactured. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we capture these ideas in a structured way, making sure that all design decisions, choices that we have in the design, the variants and the options are embedded in the model, so that we can visualize and analyze them, ensuring that the configurations are complete and consistent from a design point of view. And then the interfacing with the existing product lifecycle management tooling for a smooth transition of product data to production. At its core, Configueres uses objects and relations and their attributes to build the structures in the model. The relations and their attributes are used to make the design explicit. Let's have a look at a few examples. In the first example, you see the definition of two objects, A and B. And by the way, all your data is kept locally on your computer. Nothing is stored on the server. These objects and relations are defined in a spreadsheet, and objects can be represented as abstract and vague things like thoughts or concept or risks, but can also represent more concrete things like a steering system of a car or even its nuts and bolts. It is the relations that make us understand the object's context and purpose. One of the principles that are used throughout the app is the individuality and the independence of the objects. And those two are safeguarded almost to the extreme. And this means that objects are defined in the model only once, and that the objects in Configueres do not change when they are linked to other objects. Relations are means to embed the ideas, conclusions, decisions, options, and variants, and the different design choices that are made into the model. Every decision, whether it's design related or organization related, is documented explicitly. Relations facilitate the creation and maintenance of variants and options at any level in the model. Let's look at another example. In this example, the structure consists of four objects: sys, var1, var2, and c1. The four objects are connected through four relations, all of them of the type consist of. The two columns at the end of the table play a crucial role in managing the product or component's options and variants. XOR ID means that objects connected to the from object, in this example it's the OBJ 001, and have a similar XOR ID, then the exclusive OR condition applies. In this case it means that either var1 is part of the configuration or var2, never both at the same time in the same configuration. var2 is part of the configuration when condition var_2 is selected. Both variants are related to C1. var1 is the default variant because no conditions need to be set on the relation. C1 is selected for its relation with var2 if the condition called option_C1 is selected. So let's have a look at an example inside Configueres. What you see here is four objects: sys var1, var2 and c1, and they are, as we can see, connected through the consist of relation. By choosing a viewpoint, let's say sys is our viewpoint, our perspective, Configueres will indicate that with the color red, and every single intermediate step that it takes to get to the selected elements is colored green. The selected elements themselves are colored orange. And what you see here is that we have these two variants, and based on the selection of the conditions here, the outcome, the configuration, if you like, will be different. So if we choose for variant number 2, in this case you see that two things happen at the same time. Variant 1 is deselected and variant 2 is selected, and you now may wonder, why is C1 not in our configuration? That is because we have not selected C1 as being an option, an optional field, an optional condition on this relationship. So in order to see that, you can say, okay, let's have a look at these conditions that are on the relations, and then you can see that the C1, option C1, is a condition on this relation between var2 and C1. Once the object and relation data is uploaded, Configueres offers a variety of visualizations, each of them highlighting a different aspect of the structures in the model. When we mention transformation, it is the transformation of the initial ideas through the design into the model to the manufacturing domain. And for convenience, a diagram is used that shows the different structures of the complete model. So on the left-hand side, we see the structures that are the result of the design activities, including virtual integration and test. And on the right-hand side, we see the logistics and manufacturing structures. And Configueres facilitates transformation. Looking at the product from a functional perspective, we see the creation of building blocks that partially fulfill the product's functions, driven by the requirements and design. As in COSI, the International Council of System Engineers, puts it, a system is an arrangement of parts or elements that together exhibit behavior or meaning that the individual constituents do not. The systems perspective, however, is only one of the different points of view that we offer in the model, to look at the model. It's certainly not the only way we can look at the model. The physical perspective has an interest in the physical, often mechanical aspects of the model elements, for instance mass and volume. The competences like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, or software engineering, often called the engineering disciplines, also have an interest in the building blocks. From their perspective, adherence to competence-specific design rules and standards is important. In some cases, the functional safety or cybersecurity properties are critical for a product and are monitored closely during the design phase of the product. Configueres offers means to view a cross-section of the model elements that are somehow related to these aspects. Configueres also offers an interface to the logistics and manufacturing domain. The configurations that are the result of the design, including the possible variants and options, are presented in such a format that on the one hand they can be easily generated from the design, they can be compared and managed, and on the other hand that these configurations have a straightforward interface with the product lifecycle management tooling. Let's have a look at a slightly more elaborate example, the door company. On the left hand side you see a functional decomposition. So we start with the functional door system, and these elements, these functional elements, functional systems or subsystems are connected to one another through this consist of relation. They will lead to these green colored elements, and they are called the building blocks, being part of a high level system. If we take the highest level of functional element here, the functional door system, and take that as a starting point for our configuration, that means that selecting the default, so we have not made specific that we need conditions here. So this will be the default set of building blocks that are put on the table. What does that mean for the physical structure? So to visualize the physical structure, we use the relation is assembled from, and that will indicate that our physical door system, being the highest level of assembly, is assembled from the door panel assembly and the door frame assembly, plus those elements, those building blocks that are directly connected, in this case to the physical door system. So what can it do for us? So if we look at the configuration tab, we can see that these elements are on the table. That means that we've chosen for hinge A with leave A1, leave A2. We have a door handle, a door panel, and a door frame, of course. If we now have a look at the other side, so the receiving side, and we take the physical door system as the highest level of receiving, and we take the assembled from as the relationship that we need, you can see that the configuration is defined as follows. We have a physical door system that is assembled from the pin. We have the door frame assembly. Within that door frame assembly we have two elements here, the door frame itself and a leave A1, and we need two of those. And we can see that they are part of a higher level assembly because they have a so-called sequence number that is associated to a certain parent. So the door frame as a building block is assembled in a parent 2000. In this case, parent 2000 is the door frame assembly. So suppose we are now to choose a different variant. The variant that we have here available is hinge B. So if we decide to go for hinge B, you will see that the diagram shows this selection by changing the color of hinge B to green and hinge A back to blue. And not only that, you'll see that also the building blocks that are associated to hinge B are then within the selection. They are on the table. So leave B1 and B2 are in the selection on the table, but also in the configuration. So being part of the door panel assembly, we'll have the leave B2 two times in the configuration. That's basically how it works. And if we have a look at the optional function that we have here, closed gap floor door, which is implemented by this threshold here. So we can choose to have that option, so close the gap, and you see that now also the threshold is part of the set of building blocks that are not only on the table. So you can see that threshold here is on the table, but also in the configuration, being part of the door frame assembly. So why could Configueres be a game changer? Well, first of all, it fills a gap that is currently left by PLM tooling. The early stages of product design are not covered by most of the existing PLM tools. Secondly, it allows application of the user's own language and terminology. Object names, IDs, relation types, etc. are all free to choose. This facilitates the understanding of relationships and dependencies between the different objects, and even object structures. It also enables the user to look at the model from different perspectives. In doing so, it streamlines an important part of the system architecture and design process and offers a solid basis for configuration management during the design phase. By making all relevant relations explicit in the model, it ensures that nothing is left to chance, reducing errors and miscommunications, providing confidence in the soundness of the product's design. It also empowers the architects and designers to explore their ideas visually and validate them effectively. It transforms the whole creative process into a structured, data and model-driven approach. In summary, Configueres helps you to model your ideas, your thoughts, ambitions and concepts with all its variants and options into managed configurations and make sure that you can hand them over to logistics and production. So we hope you now have a better understanding of what Configueres is all about. Please try it out and let us know what you think. Have fun.